All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of our actionable case study podcast, LinkedIn Live here on LinkedIn. This one is a special episode. It's called Friction to Focus, and specifically how Luis Ramirez helps build operational excellence with human resources. I want to start off first with a big question because I want to make sure you're in the right place. You're spending your time wisely and makes this a really interesting use of that time. I'm going to make a statement and then I want to ask a question. If that's interesting to you, stay here. I think you're going to learn a lot from this episode. You're going to experience a lot. You're going to get to partake of Luis's wisdom. So, the first statement is HR, human resources, is not a cost center. Right? This is the statement, but it's the engine that drives innovation and profitability. That's the way I've always seen it. And I think that's the way great organizations see it. So, the question for you is, if your human resources, your HR department isn't actively driving profits and growth, is it just holding your company back? If the answer to that question is interesting to you, I would love for you to stay here because I think this is going to be an engaging conversation. I see already John, and I've got another LinkedIn user, John Michelle, all saying good morning. Thank you all for joining in. I would love to hear your answers to that question. Is your HR, if your HR department isn't actively driving profits and growth, it's holding your company back. Is that a true or false statement? I would love to hear. You can type that in the comments. I want to start with you, Luis. Your thoughts on that topic. What do you? Hey, how you doing? And what are your
Good
thoughts on
morning.
that topic?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Vinay, it's very simple, right? The question isn't whether HR adds value, but it's whether organizations are fully leveraging its potential. And that to me just boils it down to that simple phrase.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying here is, can we unlock more? Is there more left? I mean, I think we all know there is more left, but how do we get to that? And I think that's part of what you do is you help organizations find that extra more that's just being unlock that more that's been left on the table. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that is a fair statement. My job as an HR strategist or an HR consultant is guiding companies to be able to be, more productive, to be more aligned, right, and driving that alignment.
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going to happen today on this podcast. And with Luis and I, we have taken a company, we've changed the name. So you're going to see a case study. It's a real company. We've just changed and anonymized information. And what we've done is Luis and I have talked together about what could potentially happen to this organization here. You're going to see some stats and figures, market insights, Harvard Business Review, McKinsey, all these things, but you're going to start to see that in the context of what Luis does and how he can transform this organization from going from a lot of friction into focus. I've got a bunch of people here chiming in. Thank you so much. I love this. Eugene, great to see you. He says portfolio companies are required to have forward-thinking HR groups. The venture firm certainly does. You're right. HR is so important in unlocking potential here. I have my friend Nick Stark chiming in. I know Nick Stark is also a visionary in the HR world, and he answered true to that statement that if your HR department is not actively driving you forward, it's the boat anchor. I hear of John Lane, Michelle. Uh, Thank you so much for chiming in. I'd love to have the comments keep coming forward. My name is Vinay Raman. I am the host of this podcast. We call it the actionable case study. And every time we look at a company and we bring a subject matter expert, I'll call it the Superman or this superhero here. We bring them together so you can start to see what is possible in that organization when that superhero comes in to help them move to that next level. The goal of this podcast to create actionable insights for coaches and consultants, but also for the leaders of business so they can take action and move forward. So if you have an organization that you would like to work with and help do this faster, there are tools, and we build the tools to do that. But if you're a business leader, you can also step forward and ask us how to do this, and we'll give you a diagnostic tool and work directly with Luis if you'd like to. Uh, my name is Vinay Raman. As I mentioned, I'm the founder of CEO, and let me tell you what we do is we help organizations unlock their full potential by aligning their culture, their roles, and their leadership through tools like what you're going to see today, which is called CORE: culture, organization, and role evaluation. We start to find out, as opposed to the strength of finding the personality, which is about the individual, this is about the culture, sort of the personality of the organization. So the tools work together. We will show you this core tool today as part of this case study. But I want to introduce you to Luis. He and I were making a joke in the beginning about how, Luis, you remember we were talking about Spider-Man here.
Yes, we were.
He created his first, in that Spider-Man episode movie, he creates his first costume. It's not so wonderful. It's a little ratty and tatty in the way
Yeah.
he creates it, right?
Yeah.
So the superhero has to get that beautiful uniform, the Superman's, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, and then you start to see that iconic outfit. What we do is we create those iconic outfits for the superheroes, like Luis. So is Spider-Man the choice here of the superhero that you're appearing as today, Luis?
I mean, honestly, mine is more like Batman, but I mean, I think you're absolutely right. This core engine that you have, organizations should be using this tool because it can lead you from being reactive to proactive, and that's why I love this engine so much.
Yeah. Let me introduce you to Luis. Luis Ramirez is an HR strategist known for his people-centric approach, driving cultural and operational excellence. We have a tool called the Unique Voice Report, which is a diagnostic to help superheroes understand their superpowers. And in that Unique Voice Report, what we found out is that Luis specializes in practical data-driven solutions that create compliance, create the cultures and the development of cultures, and builds performance management. It integrates it all together. Luis, is that a pretty fair characterization of how you like to work with organizations?
Yeah, I do. That's a very good analogy on me, which is strange because when I did the Unique Voice Report, I was always thinking like, these reports that you usually get, how accurate are they? When is it that you actually take it? But when I first saw this about myself, I was kind of like reading myself, basically looking myself in a mirror. I even showed it to my wife and I go, hey, is this, your thoughts of how I approach things? And she's like, I'm going to keep this here on the table. So anytime there's an issue, I can easily just go back through this or we need to talk and it'll tell me exactly what to do.
So let me kind of give you a segue as to what we're going to do here, because we're talking about how Luis builds operational excellence with HR. We create some diagnostic tools like what Luis was talking about, but we've also given it to this organization. And what you're going to see now is a visual that comes from a organization called ClearPath Solutions. You're going to start to see a couple of individuals on their leadership team. It doesn't have to be senior leadership. In this case, it is. You're going to see a visual of their senior leaders and what they look like. What is their perception of how the organization is going? Now, these visuals are created in less than 3 minutes, as in it takes the leaders 3 minutes to do them. And that's what Luis has been talking about, this core report. Let me bring that up on screen because this is where you start to see Luis shine in what his ability to diagnose what's happening in the organization, where we go from there. Let me share my screen here and we will take a look at this first one. All right. And I think I have them. Here you go. Luis, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
And I'll zoom in if people need to see more. What we're looking at is this is called that core diagnostic. It takes 3 minutes for an individual leaders in an organization to take. And when it gives you that, when they answer that, after they click that submit button, these kind of visuals are immediately created. Let me explain this to you. And then, Luis, I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear from the audience. What is the story that's evolving? We're talking about Elias Jaden. He's the chief executive officer for this organization called ClearPath ClearPath Enterprises. Excuse me. When they take this diagnostic, they answer all the questions on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is on the outside, they strongly agree. 1 is on the inside, in the center, they strongly disagree. What this says is that Elias, the CEO, believes their market position as a company is very, very strong. Their operational efficiency as an organization is strong. Their customer retention, technology utilization, agility is all quite strong because Elias is in blue. Gray is the average of the whole senior leadership team, including Elias. I see some differences. So I'd love to hear from the audience. If you're looking at this, what do you see? Do you see alignment of the CEO and the rest of the team? Do you see friction? Do you see misalignment? Do you see strength? I'd love for you to share that in your comments. This is your first time doing this. It may not come to you right away. Take a couple of moments to read this and understand the narrative, because Luis, I would love to hear what you see when you look at this from a place of helping build that HR strategy.
Yeah. So the first thing that I see is market position, right? I'm trying to focus first on what the CEO thinks is most important to him or where he's currently aligned, right? And I see innovation for the team is high. Even agility is a little bit high compared to the other reports that I saw. So for me, right, there's clearly misalignment within his own leadership structure in relationship to how do they get to that market position, right? My main focus with ClearPath would be to have conversations with the CEO or with the entire leadership team about how innovation and agility can actually get you to the necessary market position that they're looking for.
Yeah, so let me say that another way. By looking at this visualization, you start to see the understanding, the narratives, or the belief and perspective that Elias, the CEO, has of the company and where they're going, and you kind of see how it's out of sync with necessarily the rest of the team. Is this a matter of right or wrong? I would love to hear from the audience. I mean, is the CEO right? Is he wrong? Is the team right or wrong? Is that the right question? Luis, what do you think?
I don't think it's whether it's right or wrong, right? For me, the CEO, these are his focuses. And when you're at a certain level, right, there's a lot of intellectual power there, a lot of ambition. And just whether it's a small organization or a large organization, you have a lot of things coming at you at one time, right? So for the CEO, this is where he thinks his priorities are. Not that he's not focusing maybe on innovation or agility and everything else. It's just it's not really in front of him as much because of all the things that he's having to deal with. So again, I go back. It's not about right or wrong. It's just about these are his perceptions versus the ones for his team.
So, Harvard Business Review said in 2021 that leadership misalignment reduces decision-making efficiency by 22%. So, another way I'm reading that is, out of every 5 decisions you make as an organization or as a team, one of them is just useless. is almost what I'm hearing there. That's kind of a high percentage. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here because I'd like to hear also from the audience sort of their comments. But does this shift the way you have a conversation, kind of how you can position services and aid them to get to that next level, Luis? I would love to hear that from the audience as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thing we said, leadership misalignment to me is a productivity killer. So the first thing that I would want to do is align leadership into what they're actually trying to achieve and making them understand that like the priority should lie, like I mentioned, with innovation and agility in order to get to that market positioning. So these conversations to me would be facilitated workshops like leadership assessments and leadership coachings to be able to have the team themselves kind of understand and complement each other when it comes to these different misalignments that they have.
Yeah, there's some comments here that I'd love to kind of lean into. John Lane says the best companies use HR to drive the business. The average ones use it to protect them and their company from their employees. I just put a post out a little earlier today asking people to come to this LinkedIn Live, and it said, good companies see HR as a boat anchor. Great companies see it as a superpower, right? It empowers them to the next level. Michelle Lee said was talking about that graph, and she says completely different perspectives from the team and Elias, the CEO. Eugene, love this comment. Said, ever meet a CEO who thinks there are areas that aren't strong? Their job is to be positive, but the truth prevails when the company doesn't grow. I think there's probably a good conversation around that, is how we build that alignment, and I think that's almost what you like to do, Luis. I'd love to hear in the comments, when you see that alignment, what is the first thing that comes to mind in terms of building that bridge? Because Luis says, I want to bring up the next person. What are the things that you do? What are sort of the services, what are the steps that you would take, interventions that you would take with this organization to try to start building that bridge from that CEO sees the world this way and the rest of the teams that sees it this way?
Yeah, I think one of the first things I would do, right, to specifically talking about, let's say, the COO, right? So for the CEO who's in charge of the entire organization, each and every single one of the senior leaderships are basically in charge of a department, you can say, right? So they're having to uh, navigate what's best for their department, but also understanding that they have a foot within the executive decisions that are being done for the organization. So it's helping them kind of understand and bridge that gap between, you know, what is it that your department needs versus what is it that the actual organizational goals are, and how those different departments can actually help each other. Because at times it may be that, we're talking to chief technology officer with COO, is you're going to have to, understand that this part of your department or area may not get as much attention for now because we need this innovation on this side in order to get to the marketing position that we actually need.
Yeah, alignment of perspective and alignment of priority are sort of the opportunities that come out of this. Is kind of what I'm hearing from you. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
LinkedIn. It says LinkedIn user. I don't know what the name is, but it says I agree with Luis that leadership coaching is fundamental for common ground. How can innovation enhance market position? How can we align goals with customer needs and test small projects to balance priorities to get to the alignment is key. Agreed. I want to show you another person in the organization. I just believe this will start to give you dimensionality in terms of how the whole organization sees where the organization is going differently. Let me share this. This is Olivia Chen. This is the Chief Operating Officer. Chief Operating Officer obviously is going to have a certain set of biases in terms of that role. But we look at this, we see outside edge, again, is very, very strong agreement, right? Employee satisfaction, innovation, financial strength, quality control. But we see divergence from what the rest of the shared reality for the team is. And we see some areas where this chief operating officer, let me leave that name up there, the title, where we see customer satisfaction, operational efficiency, and communication are a little bit lower. I would love to hear from the audience. What do you think is the story that Olivia, as the COO, is living with every day? What is the perspective that she has of her organization, and what does she think is the boat anchor for that organization? Luis, I'd love to hear what you think.
Well, seeing this and remembering the CEO as well, and looking at the team average, the perception for Olivia is actually employee satisfaction. She cares more about it, employee satisfaction, employee engagement, and let's see here, quality control and financial strength. But employee, just looking at the average alone, I would probably focus more on that itself, employee satisfaction, and even agility to try to get it closer.
Building a shared reality between everyone on the team, so that she is not outsized in her estimation of employee satisfaction, that everybody else also believes that. And that could be, first thing that comes to mind for me is, everything from KPIs, key performance indicators, metrics, employee engagement surveys, things like that. If they were to implement programs like that, that's what you could help them with, is put those programs in place so that everyone sees the data that presents, we're actually, employee satisfaction is really bad, or it's actually really good. Is that a fair point?
Yeah. And then what's the average is showing me lower for employee satisfaction compared to hers, but then why is that difference so high? Is there a communication issue, right? Is there a communication gap between senior leadership and the employees as to why that is so high? Because the other C-suites clearly feel differently.
Yeah, I'm going to share another statistic here. I think it's poignant here, right? Gallup said in 2022 that teams with aligned leadership see 17% higher productivity. When Olivia is talking to the rest of the team again in the gray here, Olivia all the way up here, this little delta right here is where all the productivity is lost, because she is saying, hey, employees are happy. We need to focus on the next topic. We need to focus on market position, or we need to focus on communication or customer satisfaction. And also says, no. We need to be focusing on employee satisfaction because it's so low. Coalescing around that shared reality, what it actually is, by doing leadership workshops, by doing cultural workshops. Luis, do you think you
Yeah,
can
doing
bring those
yeah
groups
doing
together?
focus doing focus groups, right? And doing focus groups, we're also trying to figure out what are the internal motivations for employees, right? Is it the benefits? Is it the wellness? I go back to it's most likely communication. A lot of the times for me, and what I've seen is that there's as long as there's clarity, right, in what the organization is trying to achieve versus where they are and how the organization or leadership is going to help, that improves a lot that employee satisfaction.
Yeah, I think this right on the heels of that, Eugene has got a question here. Thank you, Eugene, for sharing that question. And I want to read this out. It says, "Question for Luis: Most corporations have benefits managed by HR. In our venture group, we now have the CEO's team negotiate healthcare plans and have the HR to oversee it from the employee side. Are others doing this? HR negotiating with insurance companies never seems to go well. What are your thoughts on that topic?"
Yeah, Eugene, I haven't experienced that in a while. We usually use insurance brokers, and then what we do is take the information. Like recently, the last thing that I did is that um, we grab right what the insurance brokers gave us in relationship to what that uh, increase is going to be for those benefits, and then we try to figure out how can we keep it either flat or how can we actually decrease it. So for me, you mentioned most corporations and most likely large, I mean, small organizations are most likely doing that. When you get to a certain amount of employees and you're trying to be able to bring in talent into the organization, you need to start figuring out a way of to either keeping those benefits flat, and I'm talking about medical, dental, and vision, and or increasing other areas of benefits.
Eugene, I might suggest to you, this might be a good segue. There is something I'd like to put in front of you. If actually, I don't have the slide. I'll share it a little bit later on here. But if you want to do a diagnostic like this to see how the chief human resources officer, for example, or chief financial officer, COO, how they're all seeing things differently, so you can coalesce around getting that and negotiate those benefits better. I think there's a huge opportunity here to find out why they're aligned, why are they misaligned, and I think that might help drive much greater cohesion. This is kind of what Luis does, greater cohesion in terms of finding employee benefits that align with what the employees actually desire, right? And that's most cost effective and efficient for the organization. Luis, is that a fair way to think about it?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment to say. At the end of the day, it's all about bringing talent in and what are the industry norms, and then how can you stand out between those industry norms and what's being offered.
Um, Eugene says we provide a premium Blue Cross to all employees, 100% paid. Flat isn't concerned. Best benefits against competitors are. I see. Okay, so it's about the competition that's really the issue, Eugene. Hopefully, we answered the question a little bit there. Eugene, feel free to reach out to me, or I'll give you a link here where you can use that diagnostic on the team and very quickly find out where that alignment is, and that's the kind of stuff that Luis can help with further, if interesting. I'd love to hear from the rest of the people listening in if you saw a different picture uh, with Olivia and the COO, and what other thoughts came to mind for you. Because I want to load up one more, just because I think there's use in seeing all of these things specifically. I'm going to show you the whole team. You've seen CEO, you've seen the COO, and they're kind of sort of different in the way they're set up. I'll show you what happens when you look at a whole team. And Eugene, this almost might be uh, leaning to what you're saying here. All right, so I'm going to reduce this a little bit just so I can go find it very quickly. So we've seen the COO, we've seen the CEO. I'm going to drop in here where we're going to see the whole team, right? This has got the whole team. And this is a little overwhelming, frankly, because there's so much here. What I want to focus in on is this idea of this black area is that shared reality. Look at all the different points of view and the different perspectives within that same leadership team. I might tell you, this very clearly tells me that all the people in that boat are not rowing in the same direction. Luis, is that kind of what pops into your head when you see this as well?
Yeah, it is overwhelming. There's a lot of leadership misalignment here. Um, in regards to everything. So no one's speaking, it looks like the same language on
Yeah.
how the organization wants to be able to evolve and move forward.
So what do you do?
Well, first thing you want to do is you want to panic. No, I'm just kidding. And I go back to doing these workshops, right? There needs to be an understanding of where the company wants to go and the best way to achieve it, right? You have a lot of competing priorities here, which is most likely causing operational bottlenecks, right? Because I go back to that COO example. You have the COO wanting to do what's best for their department, um, but also having that foot in that C-suite. So it's them having to understand that sometimes it's kind of like a give and take. But the first thing you want to do is have that leadership alignment with the coaching, with the assessments, like team building, um, workshops, improving team collaboration, through even agility um, assessments as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think what, if I remember correctly from that diagram, it was quality control and innovation were the two places where everybody in the team already sees. That almost seems like a foundation to build from. Hey, look, guys, you already have this in place, right? How do you start to coalesce around some alignment objectives? The way I think of it is, um, a jigsaw puzzle's got 1,000 pieces to it, and everybody's holding one piece of that puzzle in that organization. And if they all can't see that same picture on the front of the box, they don't know where their puzzle piece fits. And they're starting to say, hey, look, I got the most important piece here because that's what they're supposed to do. But they don't know how it fits together with everyone else. And that's what I saw there was just a bunch of different puzzle pieces, right?
Yeah, yeah, I like that analogy. Yeah, it is like a bunch of different puzzle pieces. Um, it's not only about like you mentioned looking at the pictures, but it's also about giving away that puzzle piece and understanding that giving away that puzzle piece moves the company forward in what you need to achieve. So nobody wants to put that puzzle piece down first, or they want to put at least innovation and quality down, right? But everything else is like, well, I don't know if I let this go now, am I going to get this back later? So
Well, it's funny, maybe, and this might touch back a little bit on what Eugene was saying about about the CEO. I'll tell you, Luis, as a CEO, maybe that's why I am a CEO, is because I'm willing to put that puzzle piece down first. I was like, who's next? And everyone else in the organization is like, whoa, hold on a second, I'm
yeah,
not going next, because they don't know how they fit relative to what the.
yeah.
And I can be a bull in a china shop. I know that. Um, there's a couple of comments here I'd like to read out. LinkedIn user, I'm assuming that might be Richard Lopez, just based on reading the thread here. It says, totally aligned with Luis. Definite communication gap that's probably creating friction. John Lane says, Richard Lopez, same here. Comms gaps often occur when leaders don't understand the communication styles, preferences, and especially blind spots. Michelle Lee says, well said. I'm going to end with this. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Luis. Right? You can recognize it when there's a high level of productive conflict. What is that? It's when discussions throw off heat but no light. Some of those comments, thoughts around those, Luis? What are you thinking?
It's when discussions throw off heat and no light. I like that, John Lane. To me, it's I'm trying to say this as professionally as possible. Working with C-suites at times, you have, like I mentioned before, they have a lot of ambition, right? A lot of
Big egos?
intellectual power, right? So it's hard sometimes when there's opportunities for that person to improve, to kind of let that go and be able to say, look, I need your help in this, or releasing this no longer gives me the power. So going back to that puzzle piece. So to me, getting from that comment is understanding that, right? Is releasing that ability to understand that your department or your area uh, needs this help, and how can the other departments be able to help me achieve that? And I go back to one more thing, and I go back to those leadership coachings and having those team developments help C-suites or help leaders kind of uh, provide more cohesion for them.
I want to bring it back because the title of the episode was how Luis Ramirez brings or builds operational excellence with HR. Um, I mean, where we've kind of journeyed so far in this conversation, we're starting to see some of the alignments and misalignments of the team. Translate that. How does that lead to that operational excellence? I mean, is it those services that you provide? I mean, walk me through that kind of what's going through your mind as you're looking at that.
Yeah, in relationship to the services that I will provide specifically for ClearPath is um, aligning leadership, like I mentioned, to reduce friction and ensure a unified decision process, right? Building agility to improve so individuals or the company can adapt to changing markets with confidence. And for me, how you improve agility is specifically what I've seen on the software side is doing like scenario-based assessments or scenario-based trainings, right? How fast does it take a specific product to go to market? And then are you measuring that, right? How long does it take you to go to market? How long does it take for things to be able to change and you be agile to make those changes? And I think lastly for me is optimizing workflows, right? Specifically for those communication gaps. How do you optimize workflows either through technology, through coaching of what is necessary to communicate? How fast should that communication happen and take place? And is that being communicated to? So at times, different tools, just to give you an example, like they may have Teams, they may have Slack, they may have email, and then it's not actually funneling down to the correct individuals within the organization to have to make those necessary changes.
I'm curious to those who've been listening in. What tools do you use today? How do you find out when there's alignment and misalignment? Hopefully, you all can see from some of the comments here, and we can see in a couple of seconds. You can see those visuals, and you can see that there's alignment, misalignment. What tools do you all use today to find that alignment, misalignment? I'll tell you, as having run, this is my sixth company. Lots of times as the leader of a company, I was like, I know my people. I don't think I don't think there's any statement that could be farther from the truth. I often found out how little, and it was usually a pretty expensive lesson when I found out how little I actually did understand my people. So I'm curious in the comments, what tools do you use? Luis, how do organizations that you work with, how do they typically do that today? Or do they do it at all?
No, they do it. And I'm going to give you the easiest answer for what I've seen for communication gaps. You have to start by listening. That's how you fix communication gaps. Have your town halls, have these leaders actually be in, like a meet and greet or a coffee and meet, and be able to listen to the employees, listen to their other department managers or managing directors about what those issues are, and then understand and reflect and come back and say, okay, how do we actually tackle these? And some of the things with communication, a lot of it is just perception, right? Whether it's positive or negative perception, but it's about actually listening and coming back and saying, like, look, here's what you told us, here's what we're going to do. And a lot of that gap closes in.
John, Michelle, I know you all do lots of work in and around people and understanding sort of the lenses through which they view the world. I would love if you care to share about that idea of listening first. I don't know that was necessarily until I learned myself that I got to do that. I always talk first. What suggestions that you, Michelle, John, might have in terms of listening and kind of the personalities? I think you all work a lot with sales and sales organizations. That may not necessarily be their first place where they lean into is listening first. Eric, pronounce your name hopefully right, Vesiana. Listening is key. If you can't listen to your team, it gives the impression you don't care. Eric, I just had a conversation earlier today with somebody from France, and he's just with the level of disgust as a citizen of France, he said, "We've got a leader here who just is so convinced that they're doing the right thing for our country. It's not listening to anybody." on a smaller scale, organizations maybe not necessarily uh, the leaders aren't necessarily listening. That doesn't have to be just necessarily the CEO. It could be senior executives at a lower level. Luis, thoughts, comments on that?
I mean, no comment. I love the comment, Eric. Thank you very much. Listening is key. Um, let me see here. John Lane says listening is a learned skill, especially for talk first people like us. Yeah, no, yeah. Even myself, I mean, honestly speaking, I've had to learn how to listen. And what I've actually had to do in my younger days was anytime somebody started to give me information, I would have to put a hard candy in my mouth and be like, I'm not going to say anything until this thing is done. And then I'm going to share my thoughts. And it's actually allowed me to be able to go back and take notes for the things that the individual is saying or giving comments on to make me think, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way, right? I've been so in tune with, like you said, bull in a china shop, going through this wall that I never thought about. Instead of going through this wall, we can be going around it or over it.
Eugene, I think you made a great comment here. You said anyone can listen, but you hear what people are saying and respond with the positive response. You're right. Listening is the first step, right? And I think that's just kind of like awareness is the first step, right? It's the first step in a large journey. Luis, what happens next? You bring people together. You see some of these visuals from the diagnostic that tells you, hey, they see things differently. It's now an opportunity for them to listen to what the other person has to see and what their perspective is. And Eugene is bringing up a very good point. Well, the next question, well, what do you do about it, right?
Yeah.
Luis?
What do you do? What are the actionable things? That to me, it's about once those two individuals can actually see that they're both uh, in the same vision, they're just kind of separated, but they're both care about where the company or the organization wants to go. It's about, okay, what are the next steps? What's the plan or the project that we have for the next 30, 60, 90 days? How agile do we have to be in order to get not only them, but their teams aligned and agile as to how they're going to progress and move forward? And that I go back to that goes back to team building, right? And in that team building, it would have to be a lot about communication, right? So once that communication gap is lowered down, I think for me, the innovation is going to be there, the quality control is going to be there, but you're also going to see that employee engagement for the team average go up higher, um, and you're going to see that market position rise to where the CEO wants to be.
I want to share a slide that I'm going a little off script here. Probably scaring you a little bit here. Luis says I do that. But I want to show another organization, right? We've done a similar visualization for them, but we're going to see two different people in the same organization, but their graphs on the same sheet, right? So you can kind of start to see what the misalignment is. And I think this speaks almost exactly what Luis, what you were saying there, and what Gene was saying is we can listen. Now we can see that we're different from the visual. Then the problem is, what problem do we now have to solve? So I'm going to bring this up on screen. Hopefully this will make it a little easier to see what exactly the question you're asking here, Eugene, is. Can you all see this? So in this case, we're looking at a organization, separate organization. The blue is the CEO, right? That's how they've responded. Customer retention, global presence, operational efficiency is what the CEO thinks they're strong at. And Dylan, the CTO, sees a different world for the same company. Sure, there's some areas of overlap, intersection. Sure. But I think, Eugene, to your point, is they can listen all they want, but this is a problem, the alignment here. Love to hear people listening in. Richard, John, Michelle, Eugene, Nick, I would love to hear what you all have been hearing or what you're seeing here and what kind of comes to mind when you see this conflict, right or wrong, right? Luis, what are your thoughts when you see this?
The first thing I see is specifically with the CTO is innovation. His innovation is so high as to what his perception is versus to what the CEO, Michael, is, um, which to me will play into the customer retention. So the way that Dylan is thinking, at least if I'm in his head, is in order for us to continue to get customer retention, we need to continue to be innovative. But since we're not there, that customer retention is gonna stay down. So how do we get and he thinks employee engagement is high. So how do we get the to me the closest thing that they have together is the global presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, is how do we get both of them to understand that in order to get to the global presence that they both want or even higher, how do we incorporate innovation that will then get you customer retention, which will then get you a higher brand reputation, right? Especially globally, is what you're looking for is brand reputation.
I look at this. What kind of appears to me is Michael Anna as the CEO. Usually, CEO is kind of the sort of chief sales officer, at least in my perspective. Operational efficiency, customer retention, global presence is not talking to me much about a salesperson. Right? This person is more of a operationally focused person. They don't see revenue growth. They don't see communication. They don't see tech utilization. They don't see financial strength. Dylan, CTO, employee engagement is high, global presence is high, quality control is high, agility is high, innovation is high. This person is bullish on the future of this company. To me, I'm starting to see that maybe these people are might need to swap
Switch
in terms
roles.
of what roles they're sitting in. Right?
Yeah.
Dylan is bullish about what the future is. Michael is a little more skeptical, and it's there. And I think this is what the power of these things are. Is instead of having taking 9 months to get to this level of understanding, we can start to see, hey, Michael, you're probably feeling some friction here every single day. Hey, Dylan, you're probably feeling some friction every single day when you show up to work. And the reason why is because Michael and Dylan just don't see the world the same. That's going to cause a problem, not only for Michael and Dylan, but then for the organizations that report into them. Because Dylan is talking about the world like this red. Michael's talking about the world from this perspective of the blue. Is that the way you're seeing it as well?
Yeah, I'm seeing that. And I'm also seeing here that Dylan understands that in a fast-paced world, agility is the difference between kind of thriving and surviving. And he understands that that agility needs to be there in order for the company to continue to be, to go where it needs to go and to have that higher global presence.
Yeah. I'm going to lean on a couple of my friends here that are listening in. Michelle and or John, you all do a lot of work around personality and personality inventories, understanding sort of the innate traits. I'd love what your comments are, because I'd love to see how personality influences these potential roles. So here's where I want to go from here, right? Luis, in working with organizations, we identified with ClearPath that building this leadership alignment, building some of this agility training, and number three, this idea of operational efficiency. The challenge here is you really can't leverage or get to the next level unless you can see how aligned your leadership team is and where those disconnects are. Luis, and making sure that everyone's rowing in the same direction. Luis, is that a truth? Is I guess my question there.
Yeah, definitely that is a truth. Unless you have that leadership alignment, there's going to continue to be operational bottlenecks along the way. And like you mentioned, they're not going to be rowing in the same direction. So it's either going to be going straight left or in a continuous circle until those actual gaps are actually met.
Yeah. Question. Some thoughts that came in here. John Lane says, Eugene, active listening is the skill. Agreed. I think I used to think listening was just hearing with my head. That's a mechanical process, right? Actually stop and taking the time to process what they're saying, I think is what you're alluding to,
Yeah,
Eugene and John as well, right?
yeah, not just processing what they're saying, but because at times people listen, but they're listening, but they're already coming up with an answer that they want to give the individual to kind of make them go away.
First couple of years of my marriage, just I didn't say do anything. I just said listen to what I'm hearing so you can understand the problem that I'm laying out.
Yeah,
I was always do, right? Because that's I feel like I was taught to do. We get and I wonder if this is Richard Lopez, because it just says LinkedIn user says they may possibly meet in the middle with customer satisfaction, ensuring innovation supports both retention and expansion. You're right. These visuals make it so quick to be able to understand the narratives that are happening in people's heads, and that whether it's that senior leadership team, or even just sort of an entry level team, getting everybody to take the same questions and see how they differ in their perspective is so useful in being able to find out what is that middle ground, right? And I think that's what was being suggested here. Possibly meet in the middle with customer satisfaction and ensuring that innovation and retention and expansion. Luis, I want to stop here. We're kind of getting close to the end of the hour, and gosh, 45 minutes seems like it just kind of whizzed by for me. After you've seen this assessment, right? What are some of the key insights that you learned about this organization just by being able to see that diagnostic and kind of how it changes the questions that you might ask of them?
Yeah, well, I want to start off by telling you that I mean I love this core engine. Um, what you've developed here, like you've mentioned, it's just a 3-minute assessment that everyone takes, and it kind of gives you the full picture of what's going on. I've been in organizations before where there's been either consultants coming in or you've done analysis for 3 to 6 months to finally get to where you are. So the ability to kind of do that and be able to be agile and shift quickly the priorities to kind of make these necessary changes in order to bring in productivity or drive for growth is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you that, but I completely forgot your question. So I'm sorry.
No, I would just sort of the key insights for you. I mean, what the tool is there. I mean, the hammer doesn't make the great carpenter. The great carpenter makes the hammer work for them. We're just the hammer, the tool, right? But you can build a beautiful house now because you've got. What I'm suggesting here is, or what I'm looking for is the question is by looking at this organization, seeing some of those insights from how each one of those individuals show up and how they see things differently. How does that change sort of the question stream for you to that organization? Does that allow you to apply your expertise more effectively? And I would love to
Yeah.
hear that from the audience as well. What are some key takeaways, or what are the things that you saw that you couldn't see before with some of those visualizations, and what does that allow you to do now?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. Yeah, the first thing, especially seeing all of these different radars and in the different strengths that everyone has in their opportunities allows me to start thinking about, okay, that, I can clearly see these issues between these two individuals, like we mentioned, the CEO and the COO. And my questions would be more along the lines of how do we get both of you to understand the positive brand reputation specifically for the other one for ClearPath, and how do we get you both aligned to where it needs to where you both need to be? So, man, I just to me it's all about leadership coaching and assessment. It just goes back to me for me at the end of the day, and the communication, right? I always looking at ClearPath, to me it was just all about communication. I don't think they ever spoke to each other, and if they did, they kind of didn't. It didn't really resonate with them about what they were all trying to achieve and how that actually impacts the organizational goals themselves.
Yeah. One of the things I will be doing in a couple moments here is I will be giving you the ability to get to that case study, so you can see that full 50-page case study where you can see each one of the individuals. You can see sort of what each one of their narratives are, but then also you can kind of see the interpersonal dynamics. Is one person really an outlier here compared to the rest of the team? How is that influencing that dynamic? Plus two people, right? Two people are just loggerheads. A CFO and a chief revenue officer, right? Chief sales officer, kind of a classic example, or marketing and sales, classic people, sort of roles that are fighting with each other. If you're interested in seeing this case study for this ClearPath Solutions, and I can share with you some others, type in case study into the comments, and I'll email it to you directly, or I'll DM it to you directly via LinkedIn. You can see that. I'd also like to make sure that if you need to get in touch with Luis, because Luis can interpret these results for you. Here is Luis's LinkedIn profile. Please reach out to LinkedIn, to Luis via LinkedIn, and he can help you get some results here. Here's my profile. If you want to reach out to me, or you'd like the diagnostic, I'll share that at the end here. But I would love to hear final thoughts or comments from the audience, from you. What is now possible being able to see this? Does it allow you as a coach or consultant to quickly diagnose a problem? It takes 3 minutes for the diagnostic. Now, 30 seconds later, you see the misalignment in the teams. There's that shift, what you can do, because I think that's what allows you to do, Luis, in this organization. I mean, we're talking about doing some pilots together, Luis, and the idea of being able to work with organizations very quickly to understand what that looks like. John, you said show the profiles. What were you talking about there? The profiles of the individuals?
Yeah, I think that's what he's talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Bring those back up again.
The ones that provide the key metrics for the UVRs.
So here's one, happens to be the chief human resources officer, right? We'll see their graph in a moment here, but their strengths: employee satisfaction, operational efficiency, financial health, frictions, market position, global presence, innovation. Here's where they're misaligned with everybody: employee satisfaction, operational efficiency, and innovation. Luis, talking to somebody like this, where employee satisfaction, operational efficiency, and innovation are the problems as a chief human resources officer, does that shift the way you talk to them?
Yeah, it does. And it goes back to also, this is a great time too, with I think Michelle does, is doing those profiles, those personality profiles. And that's how those help as well. Is once you have these strengths and weaknesses, is how do you tie those into those personality profiles to be able to have those conversations.
And John, I put the LinkedIn profiles in for everybody. If you'd like to connect with us, they're in the comments already for Luis and I both. If you'd like to get a report, if you'd like to get a report like this, I will show you how you can get this. Build a report. This is the first stage doing it. It's a process. If you click on that link, it will take you to where you can start to generate graphs like this in a couple moments. The report is complete. This link here is completely free. You will see something like this. It'll take you 3, maybe 5 minutes on the upside to create something like this for yourself. And if you do that, you'll get a report that will show you kind of how you align first, because you don't have your whole team. It'll show you kind of how you align in your industry. So if you're the CEO of a tech company, CEO of or chief operating officer of a manufacturing company, it will very quickly tell you what that is. And that now then opens the conversation to where, what does my whole team look like? And do they see it the same way? You can start to see those misalignments. Luis, thoughts, comments on that?
No thoughts or comments. Thank you for your time today, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate you inviting me to do this.
I'd encourage you to reach out to Luis. I'd be more than happy to connect you if you want. Just connect me and LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to put you in touch with him as well. Hopefully this was a good use of time where you can see sort of how these visuals allow Luis to deeply understand an organization. We're starting to talk about leadership alignment, agility training, this operational efficiency enhancements, but that whole process took you 90 seconds, Luis?
Right. Yeah, 90 seconds, and I probably like a 30-minute read in order to be able to understand the entire case study, which is great.
Yeah, imagine in 30 minutes, in that first call that you have with them, how deeply you can understand the person sitting on the other side of the table. There's specific prescriptive questions that are given based on the personalities of those individuals and the perspective of those individuals in their role that it lays out to them. It speeds that process of understanding them from, call it going from 9 months to 9 minutes. And that's, Luis, kind of where we are, is where you're able to see this and give them your services and prescribe to them how your services will help, right?
Yeah, and then be able to capture someone like the CEO's attention within that first 2 to 5 minutes in a conversation, when you tell them like, hey, you know what? Let me guess how your team operates. And you kind of just give them highlights about each one of their team members. And then that's when they start kind of having an aha moment about how did you realize this so quickly? And then that's when you start talking about, well, this is what the assessment gave me, and then going into that conversation.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because people do have very, very short attention spans. Getting people, it's amazing to me how hard it is even to get people to do a 3-minute diagnostic, right? But what can come out of that is the output of that whole case study. And again, type in case study into the comments if you'd like me to say in that case study, so you can look through that whole case study that is the organization where we've been talking about and referencing, so you can see what the output of that is. You can kind of understand for yourself how that might work. Further, once you start to see that, just like you said, that CEO, you're saying, so here's kind of some of the frictions that I'm seeing in your organization, some of the personalities and perspectives that are showing up. For them to start, they're not even responding back, because that's what happens on an office base. They're sitting there kind of inside themselves, seeing that. They're like, yeah, it's, you got that from 3 minutes, right? That you see my team so deeply. And the conversation that you're having with them at that point, Luis, is so much more profound and utilitarian in support of what their pain is. Right?
Correct. Yeah. It slides into, well, these are the services that we can provide to be able to help you with those misalignments.
Because you're not talking about every organization in the world. You're talking about them.
Their organization.
Right?
Correct.
It forwards your conversation. So feel free to reach out. I'll put it in the comments here just after I end this. You can connect with Luis, myself. I'll give you links to that. Type in case study if you'd like to see the case study, or if you'd like to find the friction for your organization. That link, I'll type it in here. Richard says, this was fantastic. Luis and Vinay, really great conversation around communication, agility, and seeking understanding. Eric Vesiana says, thank you. Oops, let me put that up on screen. Eric says, thank you for the subject, Luis. HR is an underlooked area, and having a bad HR department could be analogous to having holes in a boat you're trying to plug to keep the company from sinking, when instead a great HR department can be guiding the sales and leading the company to success. Thank you for the insight and great charts. Eric, thank you for joining us. Richard, John, Michelle, all of you. I appreciate you joining. I think Nick also joined us. Eugene, thank you for being part of the conversation. Luis, thank you so much for spending your time with me and going through this exercise. Looking forward to doing more work with you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you very much, Vinay, and make it a great day, okay?
You do
Bye,
the same.
everyone.